Welcome back! In today's action-packed episode, we're going to learn how to draw dungeon walls. No, just dungeon wall. I'll have to make it multiple parts. Today we're just going to learn how to draw one wall. Let's get it! Just a quick tip, you can go to preferences to change your grid color. I don't really like the blue grid color. I like it when it's black and the opacity is really low. It's just easier on the eyes. Now I'm saying? So the first thing that I'm gonna recommend is that you make your bricks bigger. So see how each one of these is, for example, 2 and there's a ton of them? It doesn't really give you enough room to do shading and add sort of shapes to it. I'm going to make my bricks a little bit taller. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna go with 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have room to shade these bricks. All right, there we go. So now that we have bigger bricks, it's easier to go in and add details. But I want to show you something first. These are really boring colors, and it's gonna be your instinct to just go with gray. So if we select this and we go to edit adjustments, here we can change the hue. However, if you're using gray colors, changing the hue won't actually add any color to it. As you can see, it still looks gray. For a dungeon, I think a good color to go with is brown, blue, or purple. Okay, so here you can see I have some colors that are more interesting than just shades of gray. And then if I go to edit adjustments, hue and saturation, which by the way, Photoshop, almost any program has the HSV slider. So with this, you can see that I can go towards greens, maybe if it's sort of like a temple, or I can go a little bit more towards purples if I want it to be a little bit eerie. And I think I will. I think I'm gonna go a little bit towards the purple. I think that makes a nice, gives it a nice dungeon look. So let's say you wanted to highlight this. You would probably just do something like this. And you'd have these very clean bricks. And that's what most people are gonna do for a wall. But check out what we're gonna do. So for our brick, we are gonna have a lighter color up here. But you see how this is like a bright blue and this is almost like a purple? When you have this variation in color, it makes your artwork look a lot more interesting. You don't really want it to be monochromatic. So monochromatic, it's when you only use one color. And a lot of times when people are doing rocks or stones, they only use shades of gray. And it really makes your artwork look bland. I don't want this to look like a castle where every brick was perfectly laid. We want it to be a little dingy, a little, aged. So these bricks, each one needs to almost have a unique shape, and that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, now that these bricks aren't so perfect, we're gonna want to shade them a little bit more. So I have this color that's a little bit darker, and what you want to do is put this color into the cracks. If you're doing this clean version, it would look something like this. Right here, in these, where the horizontal lines meet the vertical lines, if you just add black dots, it adds so much. It makes it look like there's little crevices in the wall. So you might be wondering why I haven't added any detail to the top here, and that's because we're actually going to draw the top of the wall to give it more dimension and make it look 3D. If you remember from my furniture video, what I like to do is add a highlight right where the side meets the top. So for example, you could do something like that, but a highlight right there on the edge, it emphasizes that there's a corner there. And that's what we're going to do here. Instead of this line right here being dark, we're going to make it light. And the reason is because it's no longer a crevice, actually a highlight, and then the top of course is going to be lighter, and this is going to make it look more like there's a top to the wall. The side should always be darker than the top. Hey guys, I got my first sponsor, and as you can guess, it's Skillshare. If you didn't know what Skillshare was, it's basically an online community where there's a bunch of classes on all sorts of topics, right? And it's pretty darn cheap compared to like going to college. Going to college is like $60K. Skillshare is like under $10 a month. So it's kind of an insane deal for the amount of things that you can learn on this site. And now, like during the quarantine, it's a pretty good time to just go at it and learn a bunch of stuff. Know what I'm saying? So of course I looked up if they had pixel art, because I'd feel pretty stupid recommending this to you if they didn't have pixel art tutorials. And they do. They actually have quite a bit of pixel art tutorials. Some of you, I think, even recommended that I do a pixel art tutorial for Skillshare, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, like check out this one, Make Pixel Art with Asprite. Asprite's the program that I use, and I haven't really gone into super depth into all the ins and outs of this program. But yeah, it's something that you could learn on Skillshare. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. Now the top is made up of bricks too, so what we need to do is extend this crevice. But I am going to use the lighter color now. So here and here, these bricks extend to the top of the wall. And I do like to give things an outline. However, this isn't going to be like an edge wall, but the top right here should also have a dark line. I'm actually going to use an even darker line here. Remember how we darkened these crevices? I'm going to do the same thing here at the top of the wall as well, which would look something like that. And now it looks like we have these big fat bricks, and you can see the side and the top. I think this looks pretty good, but it's still kind of too clean. What you want to do to dirty it up a little bit, make it look a little more natural, is you want to sort of break apart these long straight lines, add a little bit of you know, a little bit of bendiness to it, like I'm doing right here. It gives it a little bit more form. And by going in, like for example here, if I extended this, it looks like there's a crack. It looks like there's a crack inside that that brick, and that can look pretty cool. You can make it look like there's little pieces that fell off, like the walls deteriorating. If you didn't know, I'm one of the developers working on Dwarf. It's a tower defense dungeon crawler. Last week I announced a giveaway where I'm going to give away alpha access to the game and some shirts. I decided to extend the giveaway one more week, so it's going to not end May 24th, but the end of the month, 31st, next weekend. The link's in the description, and basically how it works is like a raffle. The more things you do on that list, the more entries you're going to get. So I feel like this top piece is way too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this up a tiny bit, and we're going to make these bottom bricks a little bit bigger, because it didn't really look right to me to have those top bricks be so large. I think I can start shading the bottom now. Remember that we wanted to shade the bottom to make it look a little bit more 3D. What you could do is just throw a gradient over this, like a transparent gradient, but I'm going to try to do it a little bit more with color. So what I mean by that is I'm gonna add more of this dark color near the bottom here. I think the contrast between these two colors is a little too high. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this color, go to about 50% opacity, and put it on top of this gray. Now I created a transition color. This transition color is going to allow me to do a lot more shading. I actually think it's a little too bright. We'll see. So I'm just going to plop this around here and there, and now there's a nicer transition with this color, as you can see. And here at the top, I might not even want to use the darkest one. I'm sort of fading into that color, so it's not as jarring. These bottom bricks though definitely need a little bit of shading. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab that color, and actually I'm gonna grab this blue color, and I'm gonna go really light, really low alpha. And now with this color, what I can do is not only can I shade these bottom bricks to make them look darker, but I can use it elsewhere to add texture. You can use this to add texture to bricks. This is how we can make it look like the wall is chipping. So for example, it'd be a good spot to use it here where we created that chip. And putting it in corners is a great idea too, just like right here and right here. So what you can do is add a gradient. I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to create a new layer, and this will be our gradient. I just have black selected. And I'm gonna go to an opacity that's kind of low, about 25%, and I'll show you how I create transitions really quickly. In Photoshop, they actually have a transition tool. I think they do in Asprite too, but whatever. This technique's pretty cool too. So basically, go ahead and grab your rectangle tool and just draw a rectangle. And then since this already has an alpha transparency, just go ahead and draw another one That's a little too bright, but check this. I meant dark. That's a little too dark. But check this out. If we take this gradient and we put it on our wall, wow, that looks like it has so much more form. But even though it's too dark, no worries, bros. Because what you can do is you can just go to the layer, and then here in the layer, you can adjust the gradient. So maybe something like that. And now I'll just go ahead and grab this gradient. What you can do is you can actually extend it. You see me extending it? So right there. All right, and now our wall has a gradient and it looks a lot more three-dimensional. Some people hate gradients in pixel art and they love to just, you know, stick with like a limited color palette, but I think a lot of people don't really care. So you might as well make your art look as good as possible. And if that means throwing a gradient over your wall and cheating a little bit to add some cool lighting, I say go for it. Our wall here is looking pretty snazzy. I think all I'm gonna do now is just sort of mess around with it a little bit, try a few things and see what looks good. I think we're done, and just, whoa, look at the difference between those walls. If I helped you out at all, please thumbs up and subscribe. There's a link in the description to my itch.io page, and there I have a free pixel art asset pack. I'm going to add this to the art asset pack, and you are free to use this in your games however you want. I'll even include the sprite file so you can edit it. Yeah. I think I should do a couple more videos on the wall so that way we can make a tile set, right? Like, who wouldn't want me to finish that off and make a tile set for them to use in a game? So, can you guess the games I got up this week? One of them is actually not a game. Let me show you. Mega Man. This one's gonna be hard. Guess what it is? It's Dwarf Fortress. Easy one right here. Zelda. And then this one, it's not a game, but man, I had to make this canvas. Do you know what it is? That's Samurai Jack fighting Aku. Yeah, it's pretty dope, right? I'll see you guys next week. Dev Life.